Hey everyone, it's Jessica with Montana Family Pharmacies, and today I'm here with Josh. He's the manager of Stillwater Family Pharmacy, and this month is Diabetes Awareness Month, so he's going to teach us basically Diabetes 101 and teach us all about what diabetes is, what causes it, and other types of things like that, because we all do have friends and family that are affected by this disease, and it's just great to have a good understanding of it, as well as to know the signs and symptoms of type 2 diabetes so that you can be aware of that for your own health and your family's. Oh, Josh.
Yes, Miss Jessica.
Can you just give me a brief overview of what diabetes is?
So, in its most basic form, diabetes is essentially too much blood sugar in your blood. So,
Okay.
Too much sugar in your blood, or blood glucose. When we eat, our body takes the sugar out of the food, which then goes into our blood, and our body then uses insulin to take that sugar and take it into our cells and into our muscle and liver and store it as energy. If our body doesn't produce enough insulin, which is the case in diabetics, we're unable to pull that sugar out of the blood, and so then those sugar levels rise, which can lead to other complications and lead to diabetes.
Okay. And so what are some of the main health implications or problems if you don't get your diabetes under control?
So kind of what we experience with diabetics or see a lot with diabetics is kidney problems, increased risk for heart attacks and heart problems, visual problems, things such as diabetic retinopathy, and increased risk for amputations. So there can be many serious complications that go along for the diabetic patient.
Okay, so what are the types of diabetes and the differences between them?
Okay, two main types of diabetes are type 1 and type 2. Basically, type 1 is where the body no longer produces any insulin. Oftentimes it shows up more in the younger generation, such as kids and young adults, adolescents, often referred to as juvenile diabetes as well. And then type 2 diabetes is the more common form of diabetes. And that one is where the body produces insulin, but it's either not enough or our body doesn't utilize the insulin that we are producing good enough. That one is more oftentimes environmentally related, things as far as our eating habits and our exercise habits can have a bigger influence on type 2 diabetics.
Okay.
Type 1 is mainly a genetic issue, where type 2 can have other factors. A couple of other forms of diabetes, if you will. You have gestational diabetes, which is just essentially during pregnancy. Can be very common. Oftentimes during pregnancies they'll do a glucose tolerance test just to see how well the body is doing, and if we're at risk for that. Usually after the baby's born, the diabetes goes away. They are at a higher risk for later in life of maybe potentially getting it, but it does resolve after the pregnancy. And then there's the fourth category is pre-diabetes or pre-diabetic. And that's just where you have an elevated blood glucose level, particularly like your fasting glucose level in the morning. If you're kind of in that 100 to 120 range in the morning, you're just a little higher than average, so you're at a risk or a greater risk for developing type 2 diabetes.
Okay. So can you tell me what the common signs or symptoms of diabetes are?
So oftentimes it's hard to really tell. You can't oftentimes just look at somebody and be like, oh, they're diabetic. But some things or some small changes that we may notice that can kind of be a trigger for that. Increased fatigue, increased appetite, oftentimes going to the bathroom, urinating a lot, an increased frequency of urination. That's probably one of the biggest ones that we see. There can be things such as blurred vision, just because of the higher sugars. It actually kind of clouds can cloud the vision. And as it kind of develops a little further, we can actually even get kind of an unexplained or a rapid weight loss. That can happen, and even as it advances even further and starts getting into the neuropathy stage where it starts to affect the nerves, we can start to feel that tingling sensation, in our nerves. So.
Okay. So what are the risk factors for diabetes? Okay.
So basically with your diabetes type 1, your biggest risk factor is just your genetics. For type 2, it can be more of the environmental, your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle, hereditary or genetics does play a role in that as well. Certain other lifestyle choices such as, smoking, having high cholesterol, having high blood pressure, increase your risk for developing type 2 diabetes.
Okay. So how can a person prevent or lower their risk for diabetes?
So obviously with type 1 diabetes, there's not much you can do. You can't change your genetics. But as far as for type 2, some key things are just going to be eating healthy, eating right, trying to lose weight. Oftentimes, like for that pre-diabetic, they say if you lose just as little as 10% of whatever your body weight is, that you can actually reverse a lot of health conditions such as high blood pressure and even the pre-diabetes. So if you weigh 200 pounds, lose 20 pounds, and there's a good chance that you can reverse that. So that's my biggest thing is weight loss and eating healthy. Obviously, if you're doing some of these other things, such as smoking, or you have high cholesterol and things like that, so just those are all going to be factors too, that if we could start to cut some of those things out of our lifestyle, increase our physical activity, exercise is huge. Those things will go a long ways in helping prevent or minimize diabetes.
So if people have questions about diabetes, management, prevention, those types of things, what types of resources would you recommend?
I would suggest either talking to your healthcare professional, or you're always more than welcome to come down and see us at the pharmacy. We have lots of information about diabetes and lots of knowledge about the different treatments, and would love to be able to talk to you and kind of share that with you.
Okay. Are there any other online resources that you would recommend?
Probably the best source online is just going to be the American Diabetes Association. They have lots of good tools for diabetics, for different diet plans and things that they can do to help better manage their disease. So.
Okay, great. So thanks to Josh for giving us a Diabetes 101 lesson today. You can go talk to your healthcare provider, your local pharmacist, or check out the American Diabetes Association website for more information on diabetes symptoms and treatment and management. You can find your local pharmacy at montanafamilypharmacies.com.